About 10 months ago, the CTO of Palantir, Shyam Sankar, goes on CNBC. The price of Palantir was sub $10, and the price would subsequently go a lot lower than that $9.70 or so. And when Shyam Sankar went on TV, he was asked about a bunch of different things. One of the things he was asked is, how big is the healthcare sector? And the interviewer on CNBC says analysts are writing off the healthcare sector for Palantir. They're saying it's just a small piece of revenue. And boy, oh boy, could they not have possibly gotten it any worse than that. This was actually before we learned about a lot of different partnerships between Palantir and the healthcare sector. And we don't just mean the government healthcare sector, we mean the private healthcare sector as well. You see, we know that Palantir worked with the CDC and NIH and NHS, so on and so forth, but we still had yet to understand that Palantir is about to work with major hospitals like Cleveland Clinic, Tampa Hospital, so on and so forth, which I'll get into in just a moment. Little did we know that Palantir's third largest vertical would actually be the healthcare sector. Yesterday, I made a video on a CNBC article. It is a beautiful article, probably the best article I've ever heard written on Palantir. I know it's going to sound crazy what I said, but I am serious. It is probably the best showcasing, highlighting article I have ever seen when it comes to Palantir. As a matter of fact, at the end of this video, I will link that video, and I hope you take a moment to actually listen to that video because it was absolutely, bar none, remarkable. This was 10 months ago. Little did we know that the healthcare sector would account for 10% of all United States revenue for Palantir. And Palantir now is responsible for 13% of all hospital beds within the United States. That is absolutely massive, if you guys didn't know that so far. You see, our U.S. revenue is broken down to U.S. commercial, $107 million, U.S. government, $230 million. So if you take that into account and it's 10%, let's say, of just U.S. commercial, that's $10 million plus. And if you take into account of U.S. government, that's $23 million. Between the two, we're talking about tens of millions of dollars, north of $30 million of revenue being responsible by healthcare. It's absolutely massive. Remember, less than a year ago, Shyam Sankar was talking about it, and all analysts, as per CNBC interview, said they're writing off healthcare for Palantir. I'm going to play that video at the end of my video. I'm going to play the actual interview. It's just a 3-minute interview. Definitely stick around until the end. If you don't get anything else from this, you will get a lot from that. In the CNBC article that I'm going to link at the end of this video, they said a team of 4 Palantir engineers were able to build in weeks, just several months, a brand new Palantir foundry for hospital operations. And it is absolutely beloved in the United States. The interesting thing is people don't understand exactly how huge healthcare is. As per Shyam Sankar, which you guys will listen to in just a moment, he says, right now we have hospital operations. He doesn't mention that, but right now we have hospital operations. He mentions we also have preclinical research and development, we have clinical research and development, we have clinical trials, and we also have payer and provider side payment processing for actual healthcare. So right now we're just dealing with the operations part of healthcare and the logistics part of healthcare when it comes to government and some private partnerships. But we still didn't get into the nitty-gritty, huge growth story of healthcare, where we can actually work with big pharma, and we already did, but I'm saying to a bigger degree, and actually work with big business when it comes to healthcare distributions, so on and so forth. Now, some of the partners that we have in healthcare, come across the United States, the United Kingdoms, Canada, continental Europe, and Japan. So there's still a bunch of markets where we can actually get into. We're working with the NIH, NHS, CDC, Sampo, Tampa, Cleveland Clinic, U.S. State Department, the HCA Healthcare, Concordance, so on and so forth. Right now I'm going to play this interview. It's going to be 3 minutes long. It's an absolute gem of an interview where Shyam Sankar is absolutely killing it in this interview. A lot of people are straight up writing off the healthcare sector when it comes to Palantir. Remember, we went from nothing to within 2 years, 10% of our revenue and 13% of all hospital beds. This literally came out of nowhere. And this is the snowball effect of Palantir. We start small and then we expand, so on and so forth. Palantir is a massive opportunity for everybody that they work with, as well as everybody is a massive opportunity for Palantir. Palantir starts small just to get their foot into the door. But once you use CARP, you'll never go dark. And that is a very, very true statement. You see, people don't even know that Palantir can do what Palantir does. Yesterday, I was talking to a civilian when it comes to Palantir. This happened to be a female who's not too much into finance, and I was able to finally relate the power of Palantir to their specific field, which I won't go into. But by referencing the CNBC article, which I'm going to put the link to the video at the end of this video, they're like, oh, wow, if Palantir can do this for a hospital healthcare system, they can actually do something like this for my specific field, and it would drastically increase our productivity. So when civilians outside of the Palantir community and even outside of the finance community are starting to understand the true power of Palantir, this is a good day, and this is a dawn of a new age. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this interview. It's 3 minutes long, and you know what else is 3? Channel membership is $3. YouTube robs me for $1. I'm left with $2, and that buys me not just 1, but 2 bottles of water and a cup of coffee on a good day. If you guys want to join channel membership, I got a link down below. If you don't want to become a channel member, that's fine. No pressure whatsoever, but please follow me on Twitter. I'm going to leave a link to it down below in the comments as well. Thank you. Please enjoy the rest of this video. Beautiful 3-minute interview by Shyam Sankar. Do not miss this for sure. And at the end, I will link the video from yesterday where I reviewed the CNBC article that was absolutely remarkable about Palantir. Have a great day.
See you, Shyam. So clearly it's coming off of a low base, but there's a lot of potential. First, COVID, I know, is big for you in terms of managing some of the government's work on vaccines and medications, and now monkeypox. Tell us about it.
Well, thanks for having me back, Sarah. Absolutely. You know, one of the things that makes our presence in healthcare unique is that we span the entire value chain. So, of course, working with government agencies to help them distribute vaccines efficiently, plugging into the pharma companies and the biomanufacturing processes that create them, driving the hospital operations that is getting those needles into your arms and driving the healthcare outcomes, clearing the backlog in the wake of COVID.
Why should investors care about this? I talked to a number, our team actually reached out to a number of analysts ahead of today, wondering about the healthcare business, and they said it's still such a tiny slice. Clearly, there's growth there. How big of a part of the business do you intend it to be?
I think healthcare is absolutely massive. The number of opportunities that we're seeing to help the U.S. clear the patient backlog with hospital operations, to deal with nursing shortages. COVID really put healthcare on its knees here. It showed the weaknesses in the system. It spurred innovation. It's created funding to go after and fix these problems. That's as true in the U.S. as it is in the U.K. and Canada and continental Europe, in Japan. And so we see a lot of opportunity all the way from the preclinical, clinical R&D side through clinical trials, all the way to the payer and provider side.
Broadly, what is happening beyond healthcare, Shyam, with the government business? You were expecting all these deals to close and have pushed that out.
We're really excited about the government business. It has grown at a 35% compounded rate, the U.S. government business in particular, over the last decade. The nature of these contracts, when you're going after $100 million, billion-dollar contracts, they are lumpy. Some years you see 0% growth, some years you see 50% plus growth. But what's important for us is really the long-term trend, the investments that we're making to be the operating system for public health care, for defense and national security, for civil administration.
How do you think about the resilience of those businesses and what you offer in a recessionary environment?
I think they become even more important. If you look at in the wake of COVID, all those people were wondering, will these be enduring investments? And you see crisis after crisis that those capabilities have met their moment. The monkeypox vaccine is being allocated on the same infrastructure that the COVID vaccine was being allocated on. The legitimation crisis that Western institutions face right now in the wake of the recession and the need to take care of people has only become more important. You see that not only in the US, but again, in Western Europe as well.
Do you think there's a disconnect between the stock market and what you're seeing fundamentally? Do you think Wall Street understands your story? I'm sure it's been frustrating to watch the reaction to earnings and just what we've seen all year. The stock is down almost 50%.
When we look at the business, the thing that we are most excited about is what is going on in the U.S. So if you look at the U.S. commercial business, the customer count growth there has grown from 34 customers a year ago to 119 customers in the last quarter. Obviously, that's starting on a small base, but that's incredible growth, and it shows you how much runway we have ahead of us. The revenue there grew 120% year over year, and as I mentioned earlier, the U.S. government business has a long track record of growing at 35%. And so together, we see a lot of growth ahead of us here, and I think investors are starting to pay attention to that story.